Sarah here from Highland Haven Australian Shepherds and Highland Haven Dog Training, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Dog for Thought. Joining me is my co-host, daughter, and dog trainer extraordinaire, Sophie.
Hi, everyone.
So, Sophie, what's going on? Give us an update in Dogland.
I feel like there's not super, a lot of things we need to catch up on.
Well, we had a lot of dogs over the
We did have a lot of
July
training
break.
dogs, yep. But it was a good group, so I didn't really feel like it was, anything crazy besides just having a nice amount of dogs. It's nice to have a nice big group where everyone gets along with one another. It's always annoying when one of them is not getting along with everybody. So,
yeah, for sure. It was a great group. Pretty much they're all gone now, except for some training dogs. It's been so hot here in New York. It's just been insane.
Yep.
It's been just the humidity is might as well be in Louisiana. It's just crazy. So that's really hard for the dogs. Mm-hmm. So, we try to do some water sports and go swimming with them. But
I always feel bad for the ones who don't want to swim. And I'm like, well, I guess you're going to have to be hot then.
Yeah, we've been visiting Starbucks for my mango dragon fruit venti, half water, half lemonade.
No, add the water.
It's been a good group. So now we're just down to 2 training dogs. And hasn't been a lot going on here. We're still working on the house stuff, possibly moving in the next couple of months. So
we'll see.
It's been a little crazy personally here for us. But the dogs, I think, have been good. Not a lot going on.
Not a lot going on, nope.
Yeah. So maybe we should just jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so today's episode is called Reactivity and the Role of Emotion in Dog Behavior. So the understanding of dog emotion may seem very obvious to people nowadays who are maybe just looking into it or just getting into dogs, or young people like yourselves. It's obvious. Of course, dogs have emotions. Of course, we should be aware of those emotions and work with them when we're trying to change a behavior, deal with a behavior, whatnot. But believe it or not, understanding dog emotions is really a pretty recent thing. Mm-hmm. It's only been really in the last 15 years or so that dog training has really sort of, the science has caught up and sort of learned about dog body language and really researched dog emotion. And the dog trainers slowly incorporated it into their understanding of dog training. And that has been a game changer in how we treat dogs.
Oh, and now we have an access to unlimited internet, So I know this doesn't have to do with the topic, but I always go back and think to when we were docking the tails for our first litter. And banding them. And the only video we had was a boxer video that somebody put on YouTube, and that's the only thing we could find. There's no other information out there. Now you go on your phone and you can look up exactly what type of training. I think in other ways, I think that can be more difficult because it's which is the right way to train. And that kind of has its own positives and negatives. But to be able to have the access on your fingertips is pretty amazing compared to, how you grew up training dogs.
Yeah, for sure. We had to actually read books. Mm-hmm. There was no internet where you could.
And you went to a class too, right?
Yep. We went to an in-person dog training program. And believe me, we never talked about dog emotion. It's not so much that we thought they were, little robots. Of course, we didn't think that. But we really just didn't incorporate how they felt when we were trying to create a behavior or do obedience training. It was more, I don't really care how you feel. That doesn't really matter to me. Mm-hmm. It's not that I don't love the dog. We loved our dogs just as much 30 years ago as we do now. But it was your emotions don't really matter. I want you to do this, and I just want you to do it.
Yeah, I just have to do it now.
Yeah, you just have to do it now and do what I say. To be fair, it's not a lot different than how parenting has changed from my generation, Gen X, and how I parented you, which are your Gen Z, and the parents of today who are younger than me, who have young kids, how they're parenting their kids. I definitely gave you and your brother much more autonomy leeway to express yourself, to tell me how you felt, even if I didn't like how you felt at the moment. You still had the right to tell me. That's sort of what dog training has changed into. Like, we always sort of knew the emotions were there. We just didn't use them in the calculus when we were trying to teach something or trying to extinguish a behavior. When you talk about reactivity in particular, and we probably should start by defining it, reactivity is an emotional explosion due to a trigger. That trigger usually being another dog or a person, and it's usually while they're on leash. Those are the most typical types of reactivity, which is why when people talk about it, they almost always refer to it as leash reactivity.
Yeah.
Right? So years ago, when you would see something like leash reactivity, you would correct it harshly, right? Because, and that sort of makes sense. It's common sense, sort of, right? It's like, it's a behavior that I don't like.
Therefore, I'm going to correct it.
Therefore, I'm going to communicate to the dog that that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And I want you to stop doing that. What we didn't sort of understand or put again in the calculus is that it's an emotion, fear, which is the base emotion, right? And we can't correct away or discipline away an emotion. That just doesn't work. Now, can we suppress the hell out of it? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Right.
And then you have them not telling you when they're about to react at something. So I see that a lot on social media of people being like, oh, I got an e-collar and I corrected the shit out of my dog. And now he can walk around Home Depot. But if you look at his body language, he's not giving you the signs. That,
he's not a relaxed dog.
No, he's not relaxed. He's stressed out and he's just suppressing those emotions until something triggers him and then he's going to bite whoever it is.
Right.
Which to me makes an unsafe dog because I want my dog to be able to communicate how they're feeling in that moment.
Right. So it's exactly the same thing as I said about you and your brother. You were allowed to express how you felt about things, even if I didn't like how you were feeling. Right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with dogs. You have to give them permission to express how they're feeling in an appropriate way, of course, because that's important information that they're communicating with you. And really the worst thing you can do with a reactive dog
who's fearful,
yes, even if they're just plain old aggressive, right, is to suppress that emotion, suppress that behavior, that warning behavior, because they're then like a coil, right, a coil.
Well, how I see it is it's dogs have 3 different reactions. It's fight, flight, freeze, right? And if you take away flight, which most of the time they're barking at or reacting at another dog because they want to get away and they feel like they have to be big and get away from me, blah, 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 blah. You take flight away and they're on a small leash. Freeze is their next option. And if they can't get away from freeze, it's fight. So that's the only option you're really giving the dog is fight when it would rather choose flight or freeze.
Right. And most of the time it's fight and flight. Freeze is really a new concept. We did not say that years ago. Fight, flight, freeze. It was just fight and flight. Yeah. And that's sort of, a newer concept of, oh, yeah, there's a third option for dogs. Most dogs who are stressed in a situation where they are being leash reactive, you have 2 options. It's flight, and the leash is preventing that. And their next option is going to be fight. Yep. Most dogs. So... And we didn't really even think about that either, that the leash was creating this. That just never occurred to me, when I was your age. It just never occurred to me that it was always kind of like, that's interesting that the dog only acts like that on leash. That's a quirk.
You take them around other dogs off leash and they listen perfectly and they understand and because they have the freedom to be able to leave a situation. Where on the leash, they have nowhere to go and it feels very confining.
Right. So what the reaction is it's a space creating behavior, right? So the dog is essentially saying to the other dog, stay away from me, I'm big, bad, and tough. I want you to back up and give space. So that's a normal behavior for them, right? It's asking for space, which is why the first thing we do when we have a reactive dog is to
create space. Yeah.
Right. And if they're in an explosion, in an explosive reaction, that's on us, right? We
didn't create enough space.
I didn't create enough space. Obviously, I miscalculated this for whatever reason. And there's like 1,000 different scenarios, right? And we can't, I hear that a lot from our clients, like, well, sometimes they react to dogs and other times they don't. And other times I think they're going to react to a dog based on that dog's behavior and they're fine with it. And sometimes a dog seems completely, checked out, not even paying attention, and my dog goes nuts. I try to tell people that, they're reading different things than we are. And a lot of times we just can't see the behaviors that they're reacting to.
Well, even then, sometimes we go on walks with clients and they're like, oh, I don't know why he reacted to this dog. And I'm like, that dog is quiet and is stalking your dog. So it's also like most people don't have that very fine-tuned eye to know exactly what behavior they're looking at, because a dog could be completely quiet and be like staring down your dog, and that's very threatening, to be quiet and staring down your dog, rather than a puppy who's like on the end of the leash being all playful. That dog's like, oh, that dog's not a threat to me.
Right.
So it's the fine-tuned stuff. And then on top of that, there's behaviors that you and me don't even see, that the dogs see, just a slight twitch of the ear, just a side glance, just a side lick lip.
Who knows? It could be a scent, that they're smelling, right?
Yeah, true.
We don't know. It could be, an intact status of a male or a female. There's all these senses that we're not reading as humans.
Yeah, true.
So it's never for no reason. And I hear that a lot from our clients, well, sometimes she reacts, it's just for no reason. It's out of the blue and no reason. It's neither out of the blue nor for no reason. We just aren't cued into what they're reacting to.
Yeah.
So, we'll be walking and we'll be walking training dogs. And I would say a good 50% of our clients have some sort of leash reactivity. It's the most common complaint that we see when dogs come in. So most of the dogs we walk will have we'll be doing some sort of counter conditioning of that reactivity, right? And we'll come across other dogs on our daily walks because that's intentional, right? We walk in a place where they're going to see other dogs so we can work on this behavior. And it's incredibly frustrating for us. The other people are incredibly frustrated.
Yes. Yes. And we walk in like a really nice park. Like there's plenty of space to move around and stuff. But I feel like during the weekdays when it's like the regulars there and we know like this lady's going to have her dog on a flexi leash and have him all the way in the middle of the road, it's like we can mentally prepare for that. But it's always when we're walking on the weekends and it's just like all the people who aren't normal.
Not the regulars.
Not the regulars at the park. And you don't know what's going to happen. Or if a person's going to jog right next to you and you're like, I don't understand that. That blows my mind every single time a jogger runs like less than 5 feet away from us when we're walking the dog.
From behind.
From behind. And we don't hear them and they come from behind and our dog reacts. And I'm like, well, honestly, if I were you, I would react too because that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So it's also understanding that they could just be scared. Like it just could be a reflex. And in those situations when Twiggy is like scared and reacts, I'm like, I'll give it to you because that was scary to me. Or I understand how that could be scary for you.
Yeah, so that keeps going back to allowing them to express how they feel. And there are times when, in my opinion, reactivity from one of our dogs or even one of our training dogs, there are times when it's understandable and I'm not going to bend over backwards to recondition that, correct it, make space, blah, 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 because it was an appropriate reaction. Like when a jogger comes up from behind us and none of us hear him until he's on top of us. It's always a guy, by the way. And our dogs go, whoa! Well, I would too.
Yeah,
I kind of did that, but I just didn't do the barking part.
Yeah.
And again,
or like a motorcycle or something loud, like. And sometimes, like I've noticed, and you definitely noticed with Journey, is like you'll think like they won't react at something, but all of a sudden they do react at it, and you're like, damn, like. I never even expected that. Like, I didn't even see that coming, that type of reaction to, like, I don't know, like a piece of a bag blowing in the wind. Journey will freak out. But then it's like something that would be scary, like a garbage truck being emptied and that giant like clung, 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 clung. And she's like, no big deal. It's like, you can never, you know, I mean, thank you for telling me, like, that scares you. Now it's in my little catalog of like, okay, she's scared of bags blowing in the wind, you know? But it's always interesting what they find triggering and what we think they're going to be triggered by. So I think it's important for them to express those things, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess people who don't have reactive dogs, or maybe they don't think they have reactive dogs, that are walking in the park at the same time that we are, the way they handle their dog just makes everything so much worse. So their dog will be doing something like you referred to before, stalking, right? So they have stiff body language and they're staring at the dog that I'm walking, whether it be my own or whether it be a training dog. And they do absolutely nothing to fix that behavior, to redirect it.
Yep.
Right. So get their dog's attention, make more space, pick up the pace, slow down the pace, something to break their dog's very intense stare from the dog that I'm walking. It always kind of shocks me that people don't see that that is basically a dog cursing at another dog silently, you know? And again, those are the times when our personal dogs will sometimes react, and I'll be like, yeah, I really don't blame you.
It always annoys me when I see a dog, or like, you know, on like the rail trail, it's so tight. So, you know, there's only certain dogs that we can bring on that trail. And then you have a dog that's like stalking or on a flexi leash that takes up the whole length of the trail, and you pull over on the side and you're giving your dog treats, and they come up and they're like, she's friendly, can they say hi? And I'm like, I'm not making eye contact with you. I'm working with my dog. I pulled over on the side. Like, there's like a bunch of human social cues that you should be reading, and you're not reading any of my human social cues. And you want your dog to say hi. Like, my dog, I'm trying to hold my dog together right now, and you're over here with your dog on the end of the leash, you know, with them reacting.
I will never understand that.
I really, like, I just don't get it. Like, if I saw that, I would be like, oh, let me.
I have seen that. Yeah. And what do? We hustle by.
I hustle by. I'm
keep like my dog's attention to me.
And I hustle by because I can tell they're trying their best to try to keep their dog under control. And those are the people I like. Those are like I'm like, yeah, you're my people. Like, thank you for like understanding the space and boundaries between my dog and your dog, or what you're trying to at least work on your dog.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that when I have my back to you and I am actively working with a dog, that you think that somehow is me saying, sure, let your Barky Beagle to the very end of their 15-foot flexi leash and get in my dog's space. I don't understand.
And then they can't pull them back. I'm like, it's a flexi leash. If you can't walk them on a flexi leash, then you shouldn't be walking them on a flexi leash.
I'm always the asshole. You know, I always get called the asshole in that when I say, you know, call your dog, pull your dog back, you know. It's always the person who's doing the right thing that gets called an asshole. If you see the videos on TikTok, it's always the person who's doing their very best to sort of work with their dog that is people who have no control over their dogs. They feel embarrassed. It's a shame response. I get that, but it always surprises me that you think that my back to you and me, you know, quickly treating my dog to try to keep them in a calm state is an invitation for you to let your dog out on the end of their flexing leash.
Yeah. I mean, and then if you get mad and you're like, my dog's not friendly, then the person reacts and goes, you should socialize them. And I'm like, 100%. That's my favorite. My dog is way better trained than your dog is. So don't even come at me. But it's not even worth saying anything to them. So I think over the years we've learned that what you say is, oh, they're in training. I would love for them to say hi to you, but they're in training right now. And for the most part, it tampers people's egos a little bit, and it doesn't make them say something out of tone and then make us become reactive towards them.
Which we are pretty reactive. I always say that Sophie and I in the work van, when we're taking training dogs to the place that we walk, it's like a 15-minute ride, and the whole time Sophie and I are reactive in the car at every stupid driver who makes a mistake.
Yep, pretty much. We're like
a couple of Westies barking out the window at everybody.
It is what it is. We're trying to express ourselves.
And the dog should be throwing treats at us from the back.
Move off the road. Cookie, 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 cookie. Ooh, chocolate chip.
Yeah, so emotion in dogs is really kind of a new thing, and as something that is always in flux. It's always something that you have to pay such close attention to, and sometimes you miss it. And when you do, you have to just, like you say, put it in your little catalog of oops, and move on from that.
And try to shake it off. I think a lot of the times people, once their dog reacts and flips out, then they're on edge, and their dog can feel that they're on edge. And I think literally shaking it off when your dog's reacting to another dog and just kind of being like, okay, it's in the past. Let's try to find another dog and let's end this on a positive way. I think that's also a big mistake that people make is they take their dog out, they immediately have a horrible experience with them, and they're like, I don't want to do this. Let's just go home. If you're not going to react, blah, 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 and get super personal about it when it's not really a personal thing. It's, let's just try to end it well. Let's try to find a dog. Let's try to end it well, and let's go home. Because if you end it on a bad note, then that's what they're associating walking with, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. You kind of got to get them through that rough patch.
Yeah, it's hard on the people because you take it very personally that somehow you're a failure. And, I feel that way too when I take a dog, one of my own dogs out, and I think they're at a place emotionally that they're not. I overestimate where they are, and I put them in a situation, and it's very clear that I overestimated where they are in their maturity or their socialization or whatever, and we have a bad experience. But it's really important to just sort of pack it up, move on.
Like, today wasn't a good day.
Yep.
It is what it is. Let's try again tomorrow. I do think it was a big learning curve with Journey because she was so unique with her reactivity. And she really has a hard time taking corrections. And so I think the way you handled it was perfectly. And I don't think that if you got her a couple years ago, I think we would have had a harder time with her because we don't have the same knowledge that we have now with like technology and everything like that. I think we would have had a harder time with Journey.
Certainly if she came around 5 years ago, we would be in a different place.
Yeah, I guess that's more or less what I mean.
Yeah. I've learned a lot with her for sure. She's such a sensitive dog, just telling her no, she's crushed.
Yeah, she shuts down. Yeah, and it's just like, I wasn't even yelling at you. I was yelling at Twiggy, and she's like, ah.
Yeah. So she's, and she's just so brittle. She's so reactive to anything, new people, new dogs. It's really tough for her.
And then she has those blue eyes, so everyone immediate goes, oh my God.
And stares at her.
She's so beautiful. And she's like, eye contact.
Yeah. Yep.
Where like Twiggy is the complete opposite reactive. So it's like we trained two completely different dogs, which is, I love comparing them and like being like how you train Journey is like the opposite on how I train Twiggy. And they're both reactive like in their own ways. And we were able to get past that reactivity in completely different ways, which I guess I just love as a trainer, which is why we love doing this.
So we should probably break down generally how we handle reactivity in dogs. So reactivity is an emotional response. It's almost always fear-based. We deal with dogs who have fear-based responses. We don't deal with aggressive dogs. We just don't do aggressive dogs. It's not our,
it's not our niche. Our niche is fearful.
Right. So fearful, anxious dogs is really where we live. So that response needs to be literally reconditioned. So it is a reactive dog has a conditioned response, right? It is a response to a trigger. They do that response to every one of those triggers, right? So it's already been conditioned. So we can't condition it. It's already conditioned. What we need to do is recondition it. We need to change that chemical sort of hardwiring that's going on in the brain responses to that trigger. And the best way to do that is through food.
Yep.
Right. So, and some people will say, well, my dog isn't food motivated. You just haven't found the right food.
The right food, or, there's nothing wrong with a good toy. If your dog is like...
Yeah, but most, you can deal with high toy drive dogs for sure, but we generally don't see a lot of that.
No,
You're talking about Malinois,
like
and
high drive,
super high drive border collies and things like that. We don't deal with dogs like that in general. That's not what we see. We see the average pet, right? And almost every dog we can make food motivated with the proper treats, right? And then again, you're actually you are conditioning that response. If they've never been trained with food, they need to be conditioned to understand that with certain behaviors they get food. That we're conditioning that. Once we're through that, which is usually pretty quick because it's such a biological urge to eat, right? What food does is it releases dopamine in the brain. That's just why we all eat too much. I even like ice cream. Sometimes I'm eating ice cream and I'm like, okay, well, it tastes good, but it's like not the most amazing thing in the world. So why do I want ice cream so much? It's because it's actually releasing dopamine in the brain. It's the same reason that people have alcohol and drug problems. Because it's a huge dopamine rush. It's the same thing with social media. You're getting dopamine. It's a dopamine addiction to the likes, the views, whatever. So we want to harness that response to recondition the trigger to one of adrenaline, right?
Anxiety, adrenaline.
Right, an explosion to one of, ooh, I feel good and calm and I don't really care about that trigger anymore.
I always think the best scenario to have your reactive dog, which if you have a reactive dog, they will always be reactive no matter like what the case is. Like that's just who they are. It's their personality. But if you can simmer it down to them looking around and looking for their triggers and then finding their triggers and being like, food please, that is the ultimate goal. And they're still gonna have triggers of like, a plastic bag rolling in the wind and they're gonna react at that. But for the most part, they're gonna be looking for people or dogs or bicycles or cars or whatever their trigger is, and they're gonna be looking at you and being like, oh, I want a cookie for that.
Payment please.
Yep.
Right. So really what you're talking about is management.
Yes.
Right. So creating a management protocol around your particular dog and their proclivities. Right, their idiosyncrasies. In which case, in this case, we're talking about explosive reactivity to things that upset them. So, yes, the reconditioning is, instead of having an adrenaline release and anxiety and fear when they see that trigger, it's going to be a dopamine release and calmness and happiness. Right, feeling good, the good response. With a dog like Journey, she is super conditioned at this point that she literally looks around to find the triggers in the environment, the old triggers.
Yep. Deacon is.
And Deacon too. Deacon's even more food motivated. Yeah.
Yep. And Meadow is, but Meadow's not even like that reactive. But if Deacon gets a treat, she needs one too.
Right. So really, Deacon and Meadow actually have an energy burst when they see the trigger. Like they get so excited because they're about to have food. Whereas Journey is more classically conditioned or reconditioned to that response where she just feels calm and safe. I don't, at this point, I've been doing it so many years with her. She is my favorite dog out of all of our dogs to walk. So it's ironic. She was the most difficult, the most reactive, the most brittle. And now she is the calmest and easiest and most pleasant dog to walk because I had to do so much work with her. To get her to this point, she's walked more than any other dog we have because I've worked so much on it.
Well, you worked her weakest muscle.
Yes, to the point where it's now her strongest muscle, and she's just so pleasant. I just love walking her. So yes, she looks around at her environment, looks for those triggers, and I don't always give food. I give food now intermittently, sort of. It's not every time. It's not even a regular schedule. But I do always mark her response, and I do encourage people to do. I always acknowledge it. So if she sees something, like a person coming up on us, it's not hard for her at this point. She's not people reactive at all anymore, at all. So I don't always give food for that because I'm like, we're so past that, girl.
Yeah. For Journey, it's literally the weird stuff that just happens, and I'm like, we'll be in the park, and then they'll like be moving benches and stuff, and then I'll be like, oh, they're moving benches, Mom, like blah 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 blah, and then Journey's just like, no big deal, like it's just benches, and then all of a sudden like a twig falls on the ground and she goes, oh, twig. That's literally the only reaction she has these days. Right. Unless it's like a dog being like extremely bad on the end of the leash, which like I kind of don't blame her, and I'm gonna kind of let her react if a dog's literally being crazy, because what if that person likes to go with that leash, you know? That, like, those are cases where I'm just like, yeah, please bark at that dog, because like that dog is like out of control. Let's just get out of here. Let's go.
I mean, I would love to see a brain scan in her, because I'm quite sure that even me just making eye contact, she looks at me when she sees the trigger, ostensibly to get the treat. And like I say, I always mark it with an acknowledgement, which is usually eye contact, a smile, and a good girl, very quietly. I would love to see a brain scan, because I bet you she's getting the same dopamine release from that
probably
as she is from getting the treat. That being said, I still occasionally give her treats, depending on, you know, there's not a single walk that goes by that she does not at least get a couple of treats. And sometimes we get towards the end of the walk and she hasn't gotten anything, because it's been such a nondescript, you know, walk. She'll turn to me like, hey, you know, you forgetting
Can I have
something?
one, please?
So I'll just give her a couple of treats.
Also, something to talk about, since we're on the topic of journey, is what do we call it? The when they do explode and it takes a while for them to drain.
Right. So and that's true for all reactivity, right? I describe it as like a time sand.
What do you call that?
What the hell do you call that? An hourglass?
An hourglass. There you go.
Time,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
with the sand, whatever
Yeah.
you call it. You people know. Or like an upside down beaker, right?
Yeah.
So the explosion goes up that long, narrow tube and explodes huge in this big space above, right? And then and that takes a millisecond, right? A fraction of a second to get to that point. And then it's got to drain down this bottleneck. And it takes a really long time to drain. Of course, some dogs take longer than others.
Some dogs have a wider beaker than others.
Yeah, and it's not even dogs, it's mammals, right? Because that happens to me as well, which is why I don't like to get worked up.
Yeah.
Because when I get worked up, it can sometimes take 24 hours for me to come back down. So, you know, I'm like the Incredible Hulk. You don't want to see me when I'm angry. I try to tamp it down and try to use it only in extreme circumstances. But it has such... For me as a human, it has such a mental toll.
Draining. Yeah.
It's mentally taxing on me when that happens. So I don't like conflict. That being said, some people feed on that and some dogs feed on that. So you can get these negative loops, right, of conflict. You know people who love drama, who love to shit on servers at restaurants or taxi cab drivers or whatever, and they're getting like this dopamine loop. It's just a really negative one.
Well, I think that sometimes that's how Twiggy like will walk, is like if she knows that that dog has reacted to her before, she'll be like extra provocative. Like when I was walking Cal, and then you were walking Twiggy, and we were passing by the normal everyday lab we see every single day, and she knows that that dog has reacted and cursed at her. So we were passing by, and she's scratching her feet on the ground and getting all big, and her hackles are coming up, because she knows that dog, and she knows that that dog will react, and she's going to get some sort of a feedback from it. So it's that same thing. And I think that also has to do with breeds, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big, like, I'm going to say German Shepherd, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's what they're bred to do. They're bred to be barking at people during like police work or whatever. So, you know, they're going to have a harder time.
We've enhanced that.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to have a harder time kind of not chaining that response, because it makes them feel good.
Right, because it's a breed specific.
Yeah.
It's a breed specific behavior. And you can talk about that with any breed, right? For beagles, for instance, it would be barking.
Yep. Beagles are huge. I've never met a quiet beagle before.
No, they literally have a dopamine loop with barking, because they've been enhanced to bark, because you have to follow them in the woods when they're chasing rabbits or whatever you use beagles for. And it's, you know, you have to know where they are. And so we've bred them to tell us where they are by being noisy.
And dachshunds too, right? I think that's like...
Dachshunds have a loud bark because they're underground, and you have to be able to locate them. So they have an inordinately loud bark per pound.
And man, is it piercing.
Yeah.
Is it piercing? Gosh.
So that's a breed behavior that can become a loop that's really unpleasant for us.
But rewarding for them. So that, again, we can go back to management. You have to come up with a management plan, understanding the breed tendencies, and understanding you're going to have some of it. We just want to keep it at a sort of a dull roar. Yeah. exactly.
I was just talking to somebody, a potential client, about her Pyrenees mix, and he's just barking in the background. And I'm like, yeah, that's
part of the
he's
breed.
only, I think, 20% Pyrenees or something, but that barking is definitely Pyrenees, because again, I think people don't really think about Pyrenees and barking. They don't always make that connection. You think of a beagle, you think barking, a dachshund barking, but people don't always think
it's
Pyrenees
usually
barking.
gentle giant, when in reality it's actually neither of those things. I mean, they're gentle, but I mean they're meant to.
But they are barkers.
They're barkers, and they're meant to survey their livestock and attack enemies. So
right. And they're constantly barking to triggers in the environment.
Exactly, because they're supposed to warn you, hey, by the way, there's a garbage man over there.
There's rustling in the brush over there. Could be a coyote, could be a fox.
And
I'm
it's
gonna
to warn mainly the goats or their livestock they have. But in this scenario, if you don't have livestock, they're warning you.
Right.
Which is what they're bred to do, so you have to manage it.
Right. So that would be a breed-specific dopamine loop that can be created. That only thing you can do is manage. So you can turn the volume down on that, but you can't turn it on or off, right? Mm-hmm. You can turn it up by not doing any kind of management. You can turn it down by doing some sort of effective management with them, but you can't turn it on and off, right? Yep. The other thing I think we can talk about before I forget, because I know I'm going to forget this thought, when we're talking about emotion in dogs, is a really typical thing that we see, and we've seen lately, is the redirection of dysregulation from dog to dog.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Meadow is the queen of that. She gets worked up. She's a pretty brittle dog. She's fairly anxious. She, barks a lot. She reacts a lot. She's like the town crier in the group.
Yeah.
She's the first one who's going to tell you that anything's going on. Twiggy's the second one. And so then she's all dysregulated, right? Because she's now barked and she's worked herself up, and all of that angst has gone up that bottleneck and is in the top of that beaker, upside down beaker.
And even though it's draining, she's getting re-reactive and it's keep exploding, right. So it never fully
and it's
drains.
Unpleasant.
Yeah.
It's unpleasant to feel that way. So what she does is then redirect on another dog. She goes and jumps on her mother, or goes and jumps on her brother, or mouths somebody. It's never aggression with her. It's annoying. Mm-hmm. It's annoying to the other dogs. But I don't think people always see that as that's a dog that's dysregulated that needs to learn to regulate another more healthy way.
Yep. I think a lot of the times they're like, oh, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. When in reality, like when Meadow does that stuff, I go, hey, knock that off. Like that, like you kind of have to defend, like especially Remy, because Remy doesn't defend herself. Deacon will defend herself. Like Deacon and Meadow are like siblings. They will just like not fight it out, but like, argue it out, and then it will be done because Deacon will defend himself. But Remy will not defend herself.
I know.
So I always am like, Meadow, leave your mother alone. And poor Rem's just like, I'm just trying to sleep under here.
Right. So that's a time when the person really needs to step in and redirect that dog. We like to try to give them a healthier way to sort of process that dysregulation. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can in for much of it, but it still sort of pokes through, pierces the bubble once in a while. So we see that a lot. I talked to a client not that long ago about how their dog is constantly mouthing their other dog. And it's like, yeah, well, that's just dysregulation, right? Yeah. And that dog was young, still an adolescent. And it's like, we need to step in and defend
the older
dog, because a lot of times, like you say, they'll just take it. And help that dog, regulate themselves.
And then
in a more
the owners
way.
Are usually like, oh, I thought that was just him playing. Right. So it's like, it's not even just, I don't even think it's, people just don't see it. It's just a very different view of seeing things. And then once you point it out to them, they're like, oh, and I'm like, playing is always 50-50. It's always back and forth. It's always one dog on top, one dog on the bottom. It's always flip-flopping. If one dog is shying away, looking away, not making eye contact with that dog, most of the time they don't want that interaction, and they're giving the dog many cues before they react to the dog and being like, hey, stop it. Right. So we have to defend those dogs that are saying no, and vice versa if that dog is annoying the other dog.
Sure.
So
for sure. I mean, to be fair, I've met a lot of people in my life who get dysregulated about something and then turn and try to take it out on me. I mean, I think that's kind of a common mammal.
It's probably a mammal
experience.
Thing. Yeah.
Doesn't make it right. you know.
But you can understand why it happens. And
Sure.
Be like, I get it. I get it.
Your toddlers are known for taking out their
Oh,
dysregulation.
for sure. All of a sudden, I love those videos where like they're just sitting there and the toddler just has like an impulsive thought and just like smacks them in the face. And I would like, what the heck? What the heck, dude?
Or the time you bit your dad in the leg. I think you were about 2. You just walked up to him and you bit him in the thigh. And he didn't even, he just reacted and went, ow, and knocked you over and felt so bad about it. But he was like, I didn't even know she was there. She just came up and bit me in the leg.
But it's dysregulation.
You know what? You never bit him again.
Nope. Lesson learned.
So if we go back to talking about reconditioning reactivity, it's not just on leash. It can be in all sorts of situations. You can use the same technique. So if you're working with a dog who is car reactive, which herding dogs tend to be terrible in the car that way. Somebody walks by, somebody comes near the car, and they act like the devil. The sweetest dog in the world is hitting the glass, and their teeth are clicking against the glass. Completely unacceptable behavior. I understand why they're doing it. They're confined. They feel threatened. They feel anxious. And so they're, again,
trying to create space.
Right. Create this, or you know, have this behavior, this distance creating, or attempting to have a distance creating behavior. So you can do the same thing with that. And that is just exposing them regularly, making sure you have high value treats. And just, again, when you see that trigger, you know, you're sitting in the Lowe's parking lot, you see people coming up to the car, feed. People will look at that and they'll say, you're bribing the dog? No, you're not. They'll say, you're rewarding the dog for bad behavior? No, you're not. What you're doing is you're making an association between the people and how the dog feels. And you're doing that through food.
You're reconditioning them with that stimulant.
Right. And it's the same thing with, you know, a dog who runs up and down the fence line when people walk by on the street. Again, that's something that's going to take management, right? We're not just going to throw your dog out there, you know, if you're in a little downtown with sidewalks and expect your dog to just shut up.
Yep.
You know, when you yell, shut up outside, right? The easiest way to recondition that is with a handful of cookies every time, right? But again, that's going to be training, right? Working on that response and then managing, limiting their time out there, which is why fences that you can see through are really quite cruel for dogs. If you're just going to put them out there and there's people and bikes and other dogs walking by. And
then also kind of going back, it's a self-rewarding thing, because then the person walks by and they're like, I scared that person off. You know? Yeah. So it's I think fence reactivity is almost a little different because it
could be fun.
It's very fun. Very fun. I mean, I think of Finn with the next door neighbor's dog, our old dachshund, and man, he used to go on that fence, and then eventually they would bring Roxy in, or we would bring him in, or whatever. Right. And so they both had like this feud with one another.
I mean, to me, it's like, I imagine like a Sheltie, right?
Yeah.
That has worn a path up and down the fence line. They're having a freaking ball, right? But they are winding themselves up into a state. So we want to sort of prevent them from doing that and giving them an outlet for their breed-specific tendencies in a more positive way. By, you know, playing fetch or frisbee or whatever. Or doing agility with them.
Yeah, and that's the outside activity they have, and then they come back inside. Right. Because they don't need to be doing all that outside.
So it starts with sort of a breed tendency, and it becomes an ingrained habit and a dopamine loop, right? And that's hard to break because it ends up being really fun for them.
Yep.
I don't feel like, I agree with you, I don't feel like car reactivity is the same sort of stuff. But running up and down a fence line can be really, really self-rewarding to a lot of dogs. So management is the key to that, for sure.
Yeah, I always think of with the fence, it's like Twiggy and Deacon competing with who can see the rabbits. It's like inside. And now
they run down our deck and look for rabbits. You know, somebody says there's a rabbit out there, and they go racing down, and there's no rabbit.
Yeah, and it's always Twiggy, and then everyone's just like, she just cries wolf, and no one really listens to Twiggy. Where everyone listens to Meadow because Meadow has something to say about it.
That's true. Meadow usually is responding to something real, unless it's a thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Or fireworks, like last night. She gets really barky.
Yeah.
The fireworks were tough for all the dogs this weekend. It was a
And, well, and then there
particularly
was
challenging.
somebody setting bombs off. It was, I felt the air was shaking. I was like, this is ridiculous. Thank God it like ended at 11 and it started raining. I was
Yeah.
like, thank the Lord, because I feel so bad for our dogs right now.
I feel bad for all the dogs.
Yeah.
4th of July is tough.
And it really is.
Yeah. Hey, Soph.
Hey,
I bet I can make you cry.
bet. Okay, this is my story this
All right,
week.
so this is Sophie's story, but to be fair, I think I told her about it first.
You did tell me about it first, but I feel like this is just like a really good story.
So I have it printed out here. I have not read it, so it might not be very smooth. But this is not about a dog. It's about a horse.
Yes, it is.
And the criteria for Bet I Can Make You Cry is an animal story. It doesn't have to be a dog story.
Yeah, it has to be an animal story. Yeah.
So we're doing a horse.
I feel like I should have said, Mom, bet I can make you cry.
All right, so let's redo it. Go ahead.
Mom,
Yeah.
bet I can make you cry.
Bet.
Okay, now you can read my story.
All right. So sorry, I can't credit this because I didn't print out who wrote this article. So this happened maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. All right. It happened to a young woman named Erin Bolster of Swan Mountain Outfitters. She was guiding 8 clients on a horse ride in the Flathead National Forest between West Glacier and Hungry Horse, Montana. So when you think Montana, what do you think?
Grizzlies.
Grizzlies. I have a real fear. I mean, I know everyone's afraid of grizzlies, but like, they do terrify me.
Well, we did horseback ride in grizzly country,
I know.
and I was thinking about all the game plans, mainly because of this story. I was thinking all the game plans if something happens, because I'm gonna get small, and you gotta tuck your legs in, because you know the horses graze by those trees so fast. But that horse is gonna save me.
All right, well, don't give it away. All right, it's the shortest ride we offered, said Erin, recalling the incident. We already led 2 trips that morning. It's always been very routine, hour-long route until that day. The group included a family of 6, plus a vacationing Northern California man who booked the trip for his 8-year-old son's first horse riding experience. The young boy, remember he's 8 years old, the young boy was riding Scout, a steady, obedient mount, following directly behind Bolster, the guide, who was leading a group on Tonk, a burly 10-year-old white horse of questionable lineage. Okay, I love him already. I'm pretty sure he was a draft mix, so I super love him. I could only love him more if he was a draft donkey mix, like a mule mix.
Yeah.
I would even love him more, but I'm in love with Tonk already. Tonk isn't the typical trail mount. Best anyone knows, he's the result of crossbreeding a quarter horse with a percheron, a draft horse. Mm-hmm. The woman is 5'10", and she relies on her athleticism to climb into the saddle aboard Tonk. Okay, because he's enormous.
Huge, yep.
He was one of the horses we leased from Wyoming and bring in every year, Bolster said, noting that she picked him for the stable in May to be hers for the season. I don't blame her because I love him. He's a very large horse, 18 hands high. That's like, a hand is 4 inches, so 4 times 18. You do the math, how high he is at the shoulder. It's probably over 6 feet high. That intimidates a lot of riders, but I've always loved big horses. He's kind of high-strung and spooky, the largest of our wrangling horses. He's a horse with a lot of spirit, and I was really glad to be on him that day. And we're going to find out why. Bolster has accumulated a wealth of experience on and around horses of national and even world class. She started riding at 4 and became a pro trainer at 15, graduated from high school in Roanoke, Virginia, and ran a riding academy for several years. Seeking a more laid-back lifestyle, she wrangled in Costa Rica and then the Dominican Republic before moving to Whitefish, Montana 3 years ago to guide tourists during the summers around Glacier National Park and ski through the winter. It's the country, the mountains, and an idea of seeing a lot of wildlife that appealed to me, she ironically said. Bolster quickly racked up bear experience too, although until July, it was always at a distance. At the peak of the season, we're seeing bears daily, she said. Okay, that's just a no for me.
Yeah, big old no.
People are so funny. That's just a no for me right there. The wranglers name them so we can let each other know where they are. Usually the bears just keep feeding in the distance or they run away when we come. Just seeing them is a treat for us and our guests. Because they guide around Glacier Park, bear awareness is part of the preparation for the wranglers that they get when hired by Swan Mountain Outfitters. We go over a lot of wildlife scenarios in our training, Bolster said. We learned to watch out for horse signals of possible trouble so we can steer clear. That's the key, she said. Avoid trouble with a moose or a bear. We can't use pepper spray when we're riding because it could blind the horse.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that didn't even occur to me. But yeah, so like you can't even use bear spray. So that's crazy. Using a gun would spook the horse and probably produce more danger than safety. Okay, immediately no.
No, immediately no. Brown family, immediately no.
Like, what? So you can't use any of the normal protection stuff?
Nope.
Oh my goodness. People are crazy. That's how she went to work that day. A young but seasoned pro rider on a new, huge, spirited horse, unarmed in the wilderness with 8 dudes.
And an 8-year-old.
An 8-year-old. It was a pleasant ride until we came around the corner on the trail and my horse stopped firm and wouldn't move. Okay. Immediately no. Immediately I'm turning around.
I don't think this is going to make us cry.
No, it's just, I don't think it's, no.
It's
I don't.
stressful.
He never refuses to go, so that caught my attention pretty quick, you think. But not fast enough to avoid the spike white-tailed deer that burst out of the brush and glanced off Tonk's left front shoulder. Okay, so like, immediately you're like, whew. Okay,
It was just a deer. Cool.
As Tunk spun from the impact, Bolster saw a huge grizzly bear crashing through the forest right at the group in pursuit of the freaking deer.
Goddamn deer. Bambi, get out of here.
The horses panicked and guests grabbed saddle horns for the ride of their lives. I hope they were all wearing brown pants.
Right? I hope they have thin legs.
No amount of training can keep a horse from running from a 700-pound charging bear, she said.
700 pounds.
7 of the horses sensed danger and scrambled around and galloped back on the trail towards the barn. But Scout bolted perpendicular to the trail into the timber, packing the 8-year-old boy. So remember, the 8-year-old boy's on this horse, Scout.
Yeah.
And this horse decided not to run back, but run perpendicular into the woods. The deer peeled off and joined the horses sprinting down the trail, Bolster said. So the bear just continued running past me. I'm not sure the bear even knew the roles had changed, but now it was chasing the horse instead of the deer. The horse with the 8-year-old
boy. Yeah, great.
The grizzly was zeroed in on Scout and the boy, the isolated prey in the woods. Adding to the drama, the boy's father, an experienced rider, could not convince his horse that it was a good plan to ride after his son's rescue. Okay, this is a thing of nightmares for a parent. Mm-hmm, Could you even imagine?
I wouldn't bring my kid. We see grizzlies daily, and yeah, you couldn't pay me enough money to go on that freaking ride.
The last thing he saw over his shoulder as his horse ran away was the grizzly chasing his son, Bolster said. The bear on Scout's heel, with the bear on Scout's heels, Tonk instinct was to flee with the group of horses, but Tonk responded to Bolster's heels in his ribs as she spun the big fella around. They wheeled out of a 360 and bolted into the trees to wedge between the predator and prey. Okay. Goosebumps! I knew I loved Tonk for a reason. The boy was bent over, feet out of the stirrups, clutching the saddle horn and the horse's neck, she said, that kept him from hitting a tree limb. All I could think about was the boy falling off in the path of that grizzly. I bent down and screamed and yelled, but the bear was growling and snarling and staying very focused on Scout and the boy. As it tried to circle back towards Scout, I realized I had to get Tonk to square off and face the bear. We had to get the bear to acknowledge us. I mean, what a brave woman.
What a brave horse.
But like, the two of them.
I know. It's like, what the?
I mean, Jesus. We did. We got his attention and the bear charged. So I charged at the bear.
With my horse, with my draft horse.
With my horse who trusted me. Uh-huh. Did she think twice about that? I had no hesitation, honestly, Bolster said. Nothing in my body was going to let that little boy get hurt by that bear. It wasn't an option. See, I'm getting teary-eyed. Tonk was on the same page. With a ton of horse, boulder-sized hooves, and fire-breathing blonde thundering at it, the bear came within 10 feet before skittering off to the side.
Oh.
It quickly angled and made another stab at getting to Scout and the boy, who had just fallen to the ground.
Oh, shit.
Tonk and I had to go at the bear a third time before we finally hazed him away. The boy had landed in some bear grass, ironic, and was okay. Scout was standing nearby. What a good horse for not running off.
Mm-hmm.
The Bolster gathered the boy up on her Tonk and grabbed Scout's lead and trotted back down the trail. The boy was in shock, she said. I looked back and I could see the bear had continued to go all the way through the woods, but I had another 5 or 10 minutes of riding before I got back with the group. Not until she reunited with her riders, all okay and standing in various stages of confusion with their horses, did she start to shake. I looked at Tonk. He was wet with sweat and shaking. She said he was especially concerned for the boy's father. She was especially concerned for the boy's father, and she probably suffered the most terror in the ordeal. He was fine. I got my biggest tip of the season, Bolster said. My biggest hope is that the boy isn't discouraged from riding. This was a 1 in a million event. I'm sure he's not discouraged from riding, but maybe not riding in bear country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe turned off by bears.
Well, I don't know. 8-year-olds. If I was 8-year-old and I had that experience, I would never get back on a horse again.
Oh, can you imagine the nightmares this kid had? Probably still has to this
Lord.
day. I have bear nightmares, and I've never been charged by a bear. For the next few days, the outfitter shut down the trail rides, and Bolster joined other wranglers and a federal grizzly bear expert to ride horses through the area looking for the bear. They tracked it for a long way and concluded that it kept going out of the area, she said. Judging from the tracks and my description of how high the bear came up to Tonk, the grizzly experts estimated he weighed 700 to 750 pounds. This was a case of us being in the wrong place, as a bear was already in the act of chasing its natural prey. It was probably more persistent because he was really hungry. Bolster and the other wranglers vowed to have bear spray on their belts to be sure they can defend their guests against during breaks on the ground. Their guests, whatever. Okay.
It doesn't help at all anyways, so.
But when you're riding, a horse is your best protection if you can stay on, she said. Some of the horses I've ridden would probably have absolutely refused to do what Tonk did. Others would have thrown me off in the process. Some horses can never overcome their flight animal instinct to run away. In those minutes of crisis, the big lug of mongrel mount proved his mettle in a test few trail horses will face in their careers. Tonk's grit moved Bolster. She wasn't about to send him back to Wyoming with the other leased horses. 2 weeks ago, this is an old article, 2 weeks ago I closed the deal and bought him, she said, wrapping up her 2011 wrangling season. And after what he did that day, he had to be mine.
Absolutely. It's a good story.
So, this was 2011. What a great story of animal bravery and bravery of that woman, Jesus Christ. Gives you chills.
That was just a chilled one. I didn't cry that one. So.
All right. We'll have to do better next week and try to find a real tearjerker.
Well, it's your turn, so.
All right. We'll see. So, episode 2 in the can, as they say in the biz. Mm-hmm. I hope everybody enjoyed episode 1 in video form.
Yep.
What I discovered, being a newbie at the whole video thing, is that I had to, instead of let Spotify load the video onto YouTube, it will load audio only, but not a video podcast. So I had to actually go in the next day and upload it myself. So I apologize to anybody who wasn't able to see the video form last week if they went on YouTube and only saw audio. I did correct that, and I will do better this week, I promise. But I think it went well. Mm-hmm. Jacob's done a good job. It's a lot more work to edit a video version podcast, I would imagine.
Oh, it is. was good.
I thought you did a great job.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so I guess we can wrap it up. I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Yep.
For episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
On Dog for Thought. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Dog for Thought is written and hosted by me, Sarah Brown, co-hosted by Sophie Brown, produced, edited, and original music by Jacob Brown. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.